Okay, so Lat Sau. Looks like I do have a comment though. Jesus. Maybe. Randy, just your footwork and your form. It's kind of hard to do Lat Sau. What we can do though, we can go through some shadow boxing of the Lat Sau sections for at least the first 1 or 2 student grades. Okay, let's go ahead and start with Lat Sau. All right. So I won't be giving any like detail on it. If you're gonna follow along, just go ahead and do that. Gives me something to do while I wait on people to join. Okay. Let's see what else we have. No new comments. All right. All right, so go ahead and go through Chum Q now, I guess, since Jesus requested that. Ready? Yeah, shadow space. Cool. So that's the forms. Okay. So if we go ahead and go through, I'm trying to think. Let's go ahead and do the footwork. All right, so I'll go through the first footwork drill. And then, actually that's what I'll do. I'll go through the first one and the new second one and the new third one. So for any of you guys that need to see that, you'll be able to see it now. So, it'll be also the updated first footwork drill. So there's one thing that's a little bit different. So you open your stance, circle your left leg 8 times. And then your right leg 8 times. So it goes 1, 2, and 8. Then 45. Forward step. '90-degree turns. Two crab steps. 2 back. 2 advancing steps. Turn around and take 2 more. And for you guys that don't know yet, that's all you do. You don't do it on the other side anymore. That's a correction that I got from Secret Jeff. So there's only 4 in total, not 8. Then Chun step, back, Chun step, back, V step or diagonal Chun step, and back, diagonal, and back. Then if you want the extra credit step, you step forward, your feet come up side by side as if you are in a 45-degree turn. Then you go back, same thing on this side, you're back, and then you are done with the first stepping drill number 1. If you have any questions on that, go ahead and ask in the comments. If not, then we will go ahead and move on to doing some Lat Sau in the air. So, it's kind of hard to get this to work properly. Let's raise this whole thing up. There we go. And yeah, there. I think I still got to tilt it back some. And the camera to have the right orientation is the hardest part. So, to do Lat Sau in the air, you can step and punch like you normally would down a line when you're doing your stepping and punching in the air. So you step and punch, back hand is in this Wu Sau position. I'll do it from the side so you can see it. Boom. From here, the back hand is going to turn facing palm forward and palm straight down the center. My punching hand comes back to the center. So I punch, this hand turns and palms forward, and I'm here. And you do that in a cycle. It's kind of like chain punching, except one hand is a palm strike. It always comes back to Wu Sau, and then palms, punches, comes back to Wu Sau, palm, Wu Sau, palm, Wu Sau. So this is the Lat Sau sequence. The palm strike is your pak. And all of this should be going straight down the center. And this is a palm strike, not a swatting motion. So if I'm punching and I'm doing this kind of circular, almost doggy paddle-like motion, I don't want to do that. That's wrong. Go forward and forward, forward, forward. This is how this works. And you can go as quickly as you want with that. It's almost like you're chain punching, except one hand's a palm strike. So on the other side, you see this. Boom, 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 boom. Always come back to Lop Sau in the center before you do the next movement. So it's not just keeping the hand forward the whole time, going back and forth. It goes to the palm, where it's palm forward, and then it comes back to a Lop Sau. Palms, comes back. Palms, and comes back. So when I punch over the top, this hand, my pocking hand, has to bend out of the way, and I let my fingers point down, and my wrist bends to get out of the way of my punch. So I palm over the top. And same thing, and I see Murat's here now, cool. So same thing with the punch. When I do the pock over the top, the wrist bends to get the fist out of the way so that the palm can go straight line down the center. When I punch, my punch goes straight line down the center, my wrist of my pock or my palm bends, and there's kind of a forward or a spring-like pressure against my fist with my Lop Sau, and it springs back up. Goes over the top, springs back up. Over the top, springs back up. So that's the motion in Lat Sau. And you want to be able to switch sides, and you have the same thing here. So now my left hand's punching, and my right hand is doing the Lop Sau. Boom, 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 boom. So that's how that works. And if you're looking straight onto it on the camera, you can't really see the fist coming until it's already there. You can see the arm moving a little bit because it's off to the side, obviously, but you can't see that the fist is approaching, and it's already there. So that's the sequence. So starting from this position here, you step and punch, and then you're going to pock underneath your arm once they've made contact with their fist. Let's see if I can use this as an illustration here. So if they are punching in towards me, so this stick is their punch, and my punch is going forward towards them, I want to pock with this hand here on their forearm and press forward. I don't want to swat down on it. And I don't want to pock, it's hard to do that. I don't want to pock here because then it gets my arm trapped. I want to pock here so I can punch still over the top. Now, that being said, if when they punch and you have more of their arm sticking out over the top, you can now pock this part. There's not going to be enough of their elbow left to pock down here. So you have all this space and go ahead and pock that, and you'll end up going over the top, or it really depends on what you feel at that point. If their arm's in the way, or if your own arm is in the way of your arm, you might have to circle it and go back over the top. And that's where you have this motion from the Sun Tao form, where you do that rotation. If I pock over the top and I have to rotate, this can go ahead and go around. So that's how that motion works. So if I step and punch, I'm going to pock here under my arm, and it's going to go forward, and I'm going to continue in with my punch. If they don't have their Lop Sau up, so if I'm them and I just stepped in and you pock me, if my hand isn't already here in my Lop Sau position, I won't be able to defend them. So they're coming straight in over the top. If my Lop Sau is down here and they pock me, I'm going to get hit. I'm not going to have enough time to get this up to defend it. Now it's a time and speed game where I have to actually do movement and cover distance to defend myself. What I want is to already be in position and you can't be faster than already there. So every time you do this motion, have a good Wu Sau position. So when I step and punch, my Wu Sau is already here. If he now pocks this arm, I just go forward. Even if I don't go forward, as fast as he punches is as fast as my pock will catch it. So it doesn't matter how fast he is, or how strong he is, or how much better than me he is. If my hand's already here, he can't hit me. So do that with your hand. It always comes back to this Wu Sau position. So on him, if his Wu Sau's not up, and I go ahead and pock and I release my forward pressure, I'm trying to go in and punch him with this. If he has his Pak Sau there ready to hit me, or to defend my punch, then I'll just stop without going in, because he was able to stop my forward motion. If his hand's not there, I will continue in off that first movement and go all the way through and hit him. So right off the bat, I'm trying to hit him with my punch. If he's good enough to defend that with his own punch or some kind of block or whatever he does, then I get to do my next movement and hit him on the second step. So from the beginning, on the first punch, I want to hit him. If he defends that, I hit him on the second movement. If he defends that, I hit him on the third movement. If he defends that, I hit him on the fourth movement. And on and on and on. You keep going until he makes a mistake and you finally get your hit. And once you hit him, you want to capitalize on that opening and just keep hitting him until the fight's over. Don't let him recover. Press that advantage of you moving in on that opening and capitalize on it. So that's what you're doing here. You're stepping and punching, pocking, and I'm back in my Wu Sau the whole time. My hands are never out of position where I'm going way over here to try to pock him. If I had stepped and punched, and now I'm going to pock, my hand moves in a straight line. I might even move my back foot to the side so I have an angle in a straight line towards him, but I always have my hand down my center, going through his center. So if I have, this is his spine standing in front of me, my hands should always be between my spine and his spine. If my hands ever go over here, I'm open. If my hands go over here, I'm open. I want to be on the center, so it doesn't matter how fast he goes in, he always will run into my hand first. If I step off to the side, my hand is still going at his spine. This is that same orientation and direction. My arm, like in the forearm, will always go in a straight line forward, and I'm always aiming that line at my opponent. So it doesn't matter if he's over here, I want to face that towards the opponent, and this will always be able to hit its target. If he starts to move around, you are still going to face onto wherever he goes. And you do that with your footwork. So if I am, I saw a reflection of the camera, it's kind of weird looking. If I'm standing down this line and I step, but he moves over here, my back foot will slide to a position where I can turn and still face him. If I step and he moves over here, I will always still go wherever his center line is, or his vertical midline is. That's my targeting system that I'm using. Now, I did have somebody ask a question one time about this. So we're saying that this is the person's spine, and this is always what we're aiming at. The problem is that people don't always stand straight up and down like this. Some people will have kind of a forward lean to them when they do stuff, or they will, if you punch at them, they'll duck underneath and move around, or even bend around this way. So here it's easy to hit on the center, but if I'm punching and he ducks down underneath it, well, there's nothing here to hit anymore. So what do I do about that? Well, I'm not so much aiming only at this vertical line. This vertical line is a good reference point, but really it's this tip of my sternum. Like if I follow my ribs up to the very bottom tip of my sternum, and I put a point from there to the same place on his body, so if he's Goliath, it has this kind of line going up, that's always what I'm aiming at. That's the direction I'm going with my attacks. If he's a lot shorter than I am, my line goes down, and I'm always aiming down that line. So it doesn't matter if he does any of this bobbing and weaving stuff. This point is always one point, and you're always going to be facing that, and you're always attacking that. So even if he bends down, well, you attack him through that line. It's not rocket science. So that's the answer to that question. So, stepping and punching, Pak, and then if he's able to stop you, you can actually get to this Lat Sau sequence now. So that's the whole goal for student grade 1, basically, is to be able to step in and punch, and then start the Lat Sau sequence, keeping yourself covered the whole time. And then you have switching sides. So from here to switch sides, if I'm on a line, my pocking hand is going to pock and control. My punching hand is now going to pock his pocking hand and control. So I have both his arms controlled. I'm going to take my front foot, step it off line, circle my new front foot in, and I'm going to punch with that same side arm. He's going to pock that because I let go of that arm. He only has that one option. I still have this hand. And when he pocks that, I'm going to pock over the top when he punches. So now we're doing the same sequence, just on this side now. So I'm going to pock and control. My punching hand pocks and controls his other arm. I step out to the side, circle my foot, and step in with my punch. And then we're back to the same cycle. So the hands are going to be from this sequence. I pock and pock, switch feet, and punch with the same side leg that is forward. So punch, pock, punch, pock, punch, pock, pock. Hold on to his arms as you move, and when you step over to the side, bring this hand with you. This one doesn't move. See how I can leave this in space while I move my body around it? That's what I'm doing. So when I am pocking, I'll pock and control, switch feet, and when I switch, I pull this with me, leaving that hand in place to keep him controlled at that distance, and then I will come in with a punch, and then I'll pock with this side. So I'll pock and pock, move and bring this hand with me, and punch over the top. Pock, pock, move and bring this hand with me, leave him here. If he tries to come in towards me while I'm holding onto his arm, I leave my hand there to keep him at bay. He has to go through my arm to get to me. And if he does that, I'm going to control that. I'll be able to pull him, move him, I can push through it, I can wad him, I can do a lot of advanced stuff from there. But I hold on to that arm so I have something controlling him. I have the ability to change his balance if he tries to step to hit me while I'm in motion myself. Then I punch in, do the same thing here, pock and control, switch sides. I have my backhand here so I can punch, and now I'm on this side. And the footwork looks like this. You can see my legs now. I step while I'm doing my punch, pock, punch, pock, punch. I'm going to pock with my pocking hand and control, pock with my punching hand and control, step off to the side, leave this hand here, bring my hand back, and step in with my punch. Then I'm doing this side. I'm going to pock with my pocking hand and control it, pock with my punching hand and control, switch feet, and step in and punch. Pock control, switch feet, and step and punch. So that's how you switch sides. And if you guys have any questions, ask them in the comments. All right, no questions, okay. So that's how you step in, how to pock, how to switch sides. Next we have the broken rhythm fast punch. So the way that works, I am punching and pocking. When he punches, I want to have both my hands kind of withdraw. While his punch is coming in, I'm going to pock and punch over the top. That's what that does. And if I do it on the center, I'm going to have his punch come in, and I have both my hands kind of available here, and you kind of see that I have an opening that he wants to take. So while he is coming in there, I have this hand pock from the side to the center as my punching hand goes behind my pocking hand, and I punch over the top. They kind of cross right here at the wrist. So they both go forward. And I want to step with my punch. So I pock and I step in. And then if he defends that, you keep going with whatever the defense would be based on his defense to my attack. So I go pock punch. And I do that simultaneously. The left hand, or the pocking hand, is in front of the punching hand, so it will land first before the punch gets there, but they are moving at the same time. So it's not a 1-2 motion, it's a 1. Right now you're doing a 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and I want to go from 1, 2, 1, 2 to a 1, 2, 1, 1, and does a 1 motion. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1. And it all goes forward. So that's the quick attack. And the footwork, it's very simple. You have a leg already in front. I can see which angle would be better. And when I do my quick attack, I'm going to step just in a straight line forward with my front foot picking up and stepping in a straight line forward. My back foot slides. If he is able to get his pock back up to defend my punch and I make contact on his pock, I stop my forward momentum because he's obstructed my forward motion. I don't want to fight through that. I don't want to fight through an obstruction. I want to stick to what I contact with forward pressure. If he doesn't defend it, I will go all the way in. So the defense to it, when he does this to me, he's trying to pock my arm and he punches me over the top. See how there's this hole here in the bend of my elbow? When he pocks me, that's what he's creating, kind of, and that's where he's punching through. So my Lop Sau needs to already be there so it can defend it, and I go forward with my pock. And if I do my movement properly and he does his movement properly, then what should happen is it's like it never happened. When he does his pock and punch on me, I just pock it and I punch him back. We're immediately back into the cycle. So it doesn't look like anything changed. There was just a little difference in the timing of the sounds of the pock and punch going on, and then there was a quicker pace, and then you're just back to the cycle again. So all you do is when he pocks it, you go forward and you continue into the cycle. So that is basically student grade 1. There's a little bit of an extra credit thing you could do where you learn how to do the quick attack while switching sides. So when you switch sides again, you're going pock, pock, switch feet, and punch over the top of your pocking hand. To do the quick attack while you switch sides, or the broken rhythm fast punch while you switch sides, I'm going to pock and control, and the moment I pock this hand, I'm going to immediately punch over the top at the same time, and his pocking hand has to get me before I actually hit him. It's actually kind of difficult to defend that. It can be a little bit difficult to pull that off yourself, and that takes quite a bit of practice. But try to do these things in the air on your own. Like you see me here doing it. You can do all this stuff in the air, so just copy what I'm doing on video here. So even while all you guys are stuck at home, and you're not able to come to class to train because no one wants to get this coronavirus, you can still do all these same exercises and not be lost when we finally are able to come back to class officially. And you'll be able to jump right in because you already know the sequence. Your hands are already coordinated enough to do the motions. What you have to be able to do is visualize in your head what the opponent's doing and what you're doing at the same time. You know what your movement is, you know what his defense is, and when you do your movement, he does his, and you just continue into the same cycle over and over again. You can just do repetitions of that. And this is true for every single partner drill that we have in the Wing Chun system. Even when we are doing Chi Sau, I can still do my Chi Sau sections in the air. I don't need another person here to be able to do the sequence. So my teacher lives in Austin, Texas. For me to get my training, I have to go all the way out there to train or have him come all the way here to train. But I'm able to do all of my material on my own, just doing it in the air. So if I can do that with this advanced stuff, you guys have no excuse to not be doing it for the student grade material. It's not rocket science. It just takes a little bit of figuring out how to do it. So that's student grade 1. Student grade 2 just continues from there. And so student grade 2, you're doing the same Lat Sau sequence with the punch and the pak. And what you're going to do here, the official version of student grade 2, is while his punch is coming in, I'm going to slap his elbow up to open up him low. Now I'm going to do a 1-2. So I go 1 and 2. I do a horizontal fist punch. This is not a Wing Chun attack. You're learning how to do kind of a boxer's motion, so your partner learns how to defend that. It's not so important to learn how to do the technique as it is to learn the defense to this motion. But you want to be good at doing this so you can give your training partner a good attack that he has to defend with a good defense. So while his punch comes in, I'm going to pak his elbow up and it leaves all this open, and I punch him low here. So I go 1, pull that hand back, and I punch him here. So I go 1, 2. 1, 2. His defense to that is to take the hand that I just paked and use that arm to do a Lop Sau into my arm. So when I do 1, 2, he does the Lop Sau and punches at the same time. So he does a gon punch and I'm hit the moment I feel that Lop Sau on my arm. So while I go through the sequence, 1, 2, he hits this and is punching at me at the same time. When he does the Lop Sau on my arm, I take the force of that strike and bend my elbow and I punch towards his nose. So when I go 1, 2, the moment he hits this, he's getting another punch. And that's what I use to defend his gon and punch at the same time. Since this is coming in already, my hand has to already be here to defend that. And that takes quite a bit of practice. And from that position, he's on the outside punching towards my nose, so it looks kind of like this. Then he's going to jut, and then we're going to punch over the top, and we're back to the cycle. So when I do this motion, he does the Lop Sau and punch, and I punch to his nose. I'm going to Wu Sau here. He's going to jut my arm, punch over the top, and I pocket, and I'm back to the cycle. And when you do this, you don't switch sides. Usually, when we're doing this outside high punch from the Lat Sau sequence here, I don't know if anyone's lost on me with this, I'm going to pak and control, punch outside high towards his nose, he punches towards my nose, and I jut, and then I switch feet, and I step in and I'm here. I'm going to pak and control, punch outside high, jut, switch feet, and go here. So usually when you do that outside jut, you switch feet to get to the other side. However, when we do student grade 2, and I go 1, 2, punch to his nose and he juts, on this one I don't switch sides because it's a different it's a different arm that had punched. So it's not the same kind of sequence that would make you switch sides. Even though it feels like it's the same thing, the footwork's not the same. You just stand there. So that's version 1. Another version is where I do the same kind of motion, except now when he does his gun and punch at my chest, I'm going to take my left hand, or my backhand, my Wu Sau hand, the hand that did the pak, is just going to pak on the inside of his punch, and I punch back over the top, and we're back to the cycle. So I go 1, 2, he's punching and gonning at the same time. 1, 2, I pak his punch, and then we're back to the cycle. And that's basically it for student grade 2. Now, when you do the Lop Sau, so some details on that. So it's the other half of this sequence here. When I'm stepping and punching, we're going through Lat Sau, and he's going to pak my arm and attack me low. I'm going to take the force of his pak, and I'm going to lead with my elbow, let it sink down, and I'm going to continue that loop in my arm all the way down into a Lop Sau. And what I want is my wrist, or that spiky part of my wrist, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, this bump here, that wants to be on my center. If I was wearing a belt, where that belt buckle is where that spike should be, except it's forward at a distance. And your elbow should be bent. So if you straighten this, you actually open yourself up. You want to stay bent, and it keeps all that closed off. So while I'm going through this cycle and he pocks me up, I just chop, leading with my elbow straight down, and I chop down the center, and I punch down the center at the same time. So this does a 1. You do not do a 1, 2, because that takes too much time, and while you're doing 1, 2, he's already done his 1, 2, and you're hit on the second movement. So 1. I take my elbow and slip off of his pak, and I do the Lop Sau, and I have to have this structure to my arm. My elbow needs to be bent. If you straighten your arm, you will never be able to defend this. That's a huge detail that we got from Sifu Jeff when we were out there in Austin. If he comes in with this, he's just going to push you over with that attack. To stop that, you have to chop it down with a good structure, and it has to be on the center. It's not any kind of sideways force. Don't push him to the side. Strike in a straight motion, straight down your center. That's the only way to defend this, especially since this is so fast. This is such a good attack that we have in Wing Chun. And most people, when they punch and they kind of leave this exposed here. Normal people don't punch like Wing Chun where we have low elbows. So when we get pocked as a Wing Chun person, the attack tends to come over the top because that's the open part. This is covered. But other people, their elbows tend to go out, and it leaves all this open. So when we pock them, it's not going to be open to punch over the top of this arm, but it's going to be open to attack them low. So this low palm is a great movement to do on people. And once we get back, all you guys that are working on student grade 2, or even you guys that are more advanced than that, but we'll go back and visit student grade 2, what we'll do is we'll do some applications for how to apply this on people. It's one of our better techniques. And then from that position, how to continue in with follow-ups too. Because once I've attacked low, now my hand's down here. So what do I do to attack from this position now? So there's ways to continue your motions to not just be stuck where now your hand's low, and if they were to trap that hand down and they get both your hands stuck and your head's open to be punched. So there's ways to deal with all these possible scenarios. So are there any questions? So far we've gone through all the way to the finish of student grade 2. If you have any questions, put them in the comments.